we need to view our profession as more than just law enforcement. And I think that, for a long time, that's kind of been a crutch for us, because we say, well, we're just law enforcement. And so all these other issues that we're talking about, mental health and drug abuse and kids in foster care, that's somebody else's issue that they need to deal with. We get paid to enforce the law. But the reality is that the people expect more from us than that.
Danny Baker, Police Chief in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
The one that comes to mind every time we start talking about this was a homeless lady, and somebody called on her because she was out on the side of the road panhandling. And so one of our patrol officers responded and spoke with this lady and met with her and recognized that this was somebody that, actually needed some help and might be able to respond to intervention. And so they called our crisis intervention unit out, who came out and met with the lady. And from that contact, within 8 hours, they had this lady in an apartment with a monthly rent, had her with a cell phone, a working cell phone, and had her lined up for several job interviews in town. And that was only possible because they knew who to contact to make all these things happen, who they could reach out to for the housing, who they could reach out to get the cell phone turned on, who they could reach out to get the jobs. And this lady's she's employed, gainfully employed, has her own apartment complex, and she's not living on the streets now. That is a very visceral example of how quickly you can impact somebody in your community. It doesn't have to be a generation before we start seeing results. It's happening now, it's in one at a time.
This is season 1, episode 6 of the SmartJustice podcast, Finding a Way Forward.
Crime and punishment are hot topics. Are there solutions different than what we're hearing about at a national level?
We led the nation in all the wrong categories, especially when it came to child welfare and recidivism. Why are we dead last?
Now we're seeing illicit fentanyl as the #1 drug threat in our state, backed very closely with methamphetamine.
If you really want to focus on the kids, stop acting like you're going to use foster care to punish parents.
There is a different way to approach justice that has better return on investment.
Working with families on the prevention end is more cost effective than placing them in foster care.
That seems to strengthen both law enforcement and courts and tie that together with community resources.
Justice has to be served for civil society to exist, but the place of mercy falls in the hands of the people.
And then track the impact to communities and better outcomes. And we're calling this approach SmartJustice.
SmartJustice is a work of Restore Hope and partner organizations. Restore Hope is a software and services organization that helps communities achieve better outcomes for justice and child welfare efforts. SmartJustice is focused on optimizing the system by improving the relationships among its parts.
Hey, welcome back to this last episode in the first season of SmartJustice, where we've been talking about the family and the impact of incarceration and substance abuse, trauma and child welfare, and the centrality really of our focus needing to be on strengthening and preserving families. So I'm here with my friend Rock, who's been narrating this season. You've been doing a bang-up job, man.
Hey,
it's
now.
been good.
Hey, now.
And so we wanted to sit down and have a talk at the end of this. All communities spend a lot of money and a lot of time, and they have smart people working on these problems, but they're just so dang complex that it's hard to actually start to really have population level change. So let's talk a little bit, Rock, from your perspective on these issues and what you've seen specifically here in Little Rock.
What I've been getting from SmartJustice is just going into every bit and pieces of what the community is going through, what they need, how they need to go about getting it, and the services that they need to go and get it. And what did you call it?
Collective impact, yeah.
Which you showed me. It has to do with data and software and things like that. Could you go more inside for that?
Yeah, you know, all communities are dealing with crime and child welfare issues. And in our area, the subjects we're interested in are justice-involved families. That's child welfare, district courts, circuit courts, parole probation. And so that's our target client, and we want to improve outcomes from reducing incarceration and the need for foster care. So we need to put a group together. That's stage one, is you got to get a group of the right folks together that will agree on at least one goal.
That's bingo.
And so that group has to say, we're coming together for this goal. Two is you're going to now have to define how you judge failure or success. So a set of measurements that collectively you'll say, we're winning or losing. For justice-involved families, what a community is going to need that it probably doesn't have, you're going to need to put together your coalition, we call it an alliance, and have a coordinator that serves that alliance. You're going to need technology that allows communication across organization. And thirdly, someone that's going to be wherever the target client is gathered, in a court, in a parole probation office, at jail prior to release, the DCFS office, and you meet the clients in partnership with the agency and introduce those clients now. You assess what they need, take case plans, and you make sure they get connected to it, because that alliance is there providing all those services. So being able to get enough people to agree on a goal and then start executing on that goal is what's needed. And so we saw in Fort Smith, when we first went there in 2016, they had the highest conviction to incarceration ratio of any county in Arkansas, conviction to incarceration.
Okay.
That was in 2016.
Okay.
They had the highest number of kids in foster care. They had 800 kids in care in 2017. That was 1 in 34 kids in that county were in foster care. And so they were in real deep trouble. And that was playing out. It was playing out in the schools. It was playing out in the jail. It was playing out in the courts and in parole probation. Everyone was stressed out and didn't have enough of assets to be able to deploy to fix the problem.
Right.
But enough folks came along and started working together. And then when they started working that way, giving options to courts and to law enforcement and to the parole probation office. The parole probation office, Kent Cam was the area manager at the time. He had some space in the back. Goodwill was there, we're there, the guidance center was there, Harbor House had folks there, Adult Ed was there, all inside the parole probation office.
Right.
And that was just a brilliant way of doing kind of collective impact.
Paul caught up with Danny Baker, police chief in Fort Smith, Arkansas, to discuss his department's innovative approaches and the importance of collective impact.
In Fort Smith, y'all are doing some very innovative things. And so, you know, we've talked about the problems with drugs and incarceration and child welfare. What are some of the things that you all are doing to?
You know, we've talked many times about how important it is for everybody to work together, the collective impact that we can have on a problem. What started out for us initially is probably mostly an attempt to reduce the jail population. We saw it as an opportunity to move beyond that and use it as a means to improve our community and to improve people's lives in our community so that we don't have to put them in jail. And that's really what we're hoping to accomplish, is to move people, you know, to a point where they don't need our services. We want to move them to a point of stabilization so that they become more productive members of our community and contributing members of our community instead of consumers. You know, I think in law enforcement we're kind of uniquely poised to be able to implement things. We are right there where the problems are exhibiting themselves the most, and we have the best opportunity to intervene. And unfortunately, intervention for us has always been just to arrest somebody and take them to jail.
Y'all done several things as a department. So you've got this, one of the strategies to keep people out of jail is this mobile booking unit.
Under Arkansas law previously, for Class A misdemeanors, they had to be booked at the detention facility. And so shoplifting is a perfect example. And so we've taken the officer off the street for more than an hour, and also incurred the liability that comes with having someone in custody and transporting them from point A to the jail. And so if all we're going to do is going to be photographing and fingerprinting them, why can't we do that in the field? We had to get some changes made to the Arkansas legislation to allow that to happen, and we did. And that's just one of the things that we've done. The pre-arrest diversion program, giving the officer the ability to, if an individual qualifies in certain crimes and is willing to do so, give them the opportunity to seek treatment, or go to a program in lieu of going to jail. And that's actually accomplished two things, because one, it gives the officer some discretion. It gives them the ability to exercise their discretion.
Another tool.
It's also paved the way for us now with the legislative changes that were made at the same time, allowing for sobering facilities in the state of Arkansas. And so now our officers are used to the idea of taking somebody to a treatment facility and releasing them without criminal charges in lieu of taking somebody to jail. They still do the paperwork, they still complete the paperwork just as if they were making an arrest, but they don't turn it into the courts. It doesn't become an active criminal case. If the person goes through the treatment, then that incident is done away with. It's not, it doesn't go any further. If they don't follow through, then they have the officer has the option to go through the prosecutor and
file the charge,
get the charges filed. And, it's not like we're not just walking away from the problem, and we're not saying that we're just going to stop arresting people. We're looking for alternatives and giving the officers tools and the ability to look for other options.
So y'all were doing all these things, Chief. What would you say to the person that would think that you might be jeopardizing kind of public safety and crime? What are the statistics showing in Fort Smith?
Well, what we're seeing is exactly the opposite. We're having a negative crime trend where we see very much positive upward trends in a lot of other areas. And that is paired with our reduction in incarceration. I mean, simply put, we're arresting less people and we're having less crime. The impact to our community is just, it's immense. And it's, you see it almost immediately in the turnaround out there. And I got to say this, I mean, it's not, again, I can't say this enough, it's not just an either or proposition. We don't just stop arresting people. It's diversion done right. There has to be something else. There has to be a support system. There has to be people in place that are willing to spend the time and effort to work with these people, to see them beyond, the situation that they're in. As other services within the system and within our community, as they see that law enforcement is trying to work in a different manner, that empowers them then to be more proactive in what they do. One of the first things that happened when we implemented our crisis intervention unit, I had a good vision for what I expected the officers to do and the interactions that I hoped that they would be making on the street. But within 24 hours of announcing to the public that we were doing this, we had people holding their hands up all over the community saying, here we are. This is what we do. These are the services that we can provide. How can we help? And so the unit itself became as much a network and a hub for resources within our community as it did a crime fighting tool or a crisis intervention team.
Oh, on resource like your mobile booking unit and arrest program, pre-arrest diversion program, does that cost any more in time or money or?
Oh no! I mean, you have an initial investment in, with the mobile booking station with the hardware for that, but overall cost is less. There are just a lot of positives when we can do it. When we can use that alternative. It saves the taxpayers a lot of money. It saves a lot of time, keeps the officers on the street so they can do those things that folks expect police officers to be doing.
So kind of in summary, Chief, what I'm hearing you say is you've got various strategies that you're carrying out, and what you've seen now over a few years is a significant drop in incarcerations in the jail, and crime is still going down.
Yes.
And so your public safety is better, and the taxpayers are better, and the citizens are getting the help that they need that may have originated.
Everybody is better off. Everybody. And our officers have more time to do the things that folks expect police officers to be doing.
What's kind of y'all's vision for policing?
Well, that it is policing. That we want to, first of all, we want to work ourselves out of a job. That is our vision. Probably one of the most powerful tenets of that vision is that we use every encounter with another human being as an opportunity to improve them. And we're improved in like manner. I think that we're making our community safer. I mean, the numbers show that. Just the trust and the legitimacy that's built within the community, and particularly segments of community that historically have had a lot of distrust for law enforcement, because we have addressed every problem in those communities the same way. Those aggressive traditional policing tactics. And we're finding, where we take a different approach. When we go in and we set up and give food away in a parking lot of a high crime apartment complex. We don't ask questions. We don't check for warrants. We don't, we're just there to be a presence in the community and to let them see that we really care about them. Results of that is cooperation from those communities. When we do have an incident, people are more ready to talk to us. They, ready and willing to come forward and say what, if they saw somebody do something. Or the result of that is that those that are predisposed to do those really bad things, they think twice now about preying on this neighborhood because they know they have a good relationship.
They've got a relationship.
Yeah, and we know people by their first names. They know our officers by their first names, and this idea of collective impact and people working together and being able to maximize the resources that each person has, and their passion. Each organization or individual, they have a passion for something. And so being able to harness that and bring that together for the collective good in the community, we see that happening in a big way in Fort Smith.
So part of this collective impact strategy, actually you've got to have the right people in that coalition. Right. And you cannot leave the communities that are impacted most by justice. Can't leave them out of the community. Right. Have to include the voice and the perspective. And so what's so great about our work here in Central Arkansas is that we've got partners like you and the other guys in Empowering My Environment. Right. So let's talk a little bit about, Empowering My Environment, what y'all do, but how did all that come about?
Empowering My Environment, 4 former gang members who collectively come together, and we wanted to stop the violence. We wanted to stop the nonsense in our neighborhood that we helped create. So if you would mess something up, you have to go back and clean up behind yourself. Also, Empowering My Environment, it's a thought process. It's how your mind is. If you empower your mind, you can empower everything around you. Hey, we stomp down on that concrete. We go into the community and we ask our community what we need. We talk to the young gang members and things like that from our community, because we know what they went through. Because sometimes a lot of the little homies, they have problems. Mama didn't come home last night, or daddy just went to prison, or daughter, she just got molested, or he just got shot up and beat up and he want retaliation. And we have to teach critical thinking and things like that, things that we didn't have. Mm-hmm. And then also only that, here comes 100 Family and Restore Hope again. Whatever they're asking for, we're able to lead and provide those resources for them. The counseling, the helping with this mother, she might want a job, help find a job. Well, what are kids gonna be while I'm at work? Daycare vouchers, everything, the resources are there. So that's how it works. And we took our thoughts and ideas, put it with your thoughts and ideas, and we came together with a package, and voila. Zone 1 right now is one of the safest neighborhoods.
Where's Zone 1 in Little Rock?
South End community.
South End community.
Yes, and I'm proud to say that. You know, it took a lot of work, took a couple years, but man, we one of the safest neighborhoods. You know, we have a big water park. We steady building, getting the boys club built back up. Just going step by step. We're trying to get a resource center over there. So everything that my community needs, we're able to provide that service for them.
You know, I've seen, Rock, in the last several months that, you know, y'all have your own show. You've got a Facebook show. Y'all should check that out, Empowering My Environment on Facebook. But you've got in the gatherings and the events that you all are doing, you're attracting more and more people that are thinking exactly the way that y'all are thinking. So you're growing in the number of leaders that are wanting to make a difference.
Michael's, the city council.
Sanders.
Michael Sanders.
Michael Sanders, yeah, in charge of community programs here for the city of Little Rock.
Yes.
Yeah, he was out.
Yeah, he's there, and he also he reaches out. Hey, anything you guys need, things like this. So that's that collective impact that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the more people that we get out and to come in, the more we can change our community. And Judge Shanice Johnson, she's a man. She supports everything we do. We thank her, and she's highly involved in the community. She's hitting that concrete, and she's coming out to the community, and she's listening to what the community needs.
What we need to do as a community, we just need to just remind ourselves that it's not just it's not one entity can save you. The government can't save anyone. This one community provider that's doing great work can't be the one that's solely responsible. Like it's a joint effort. And I know something that I recognize even when I campaigned to be judge, most individuals when it came to be a juvenile judge were, you know, excited. They cared about the topic and issue. But I did run into a few individuals who said, I don't have kids, I don't care. You know, like, what does it have to do with me? I was like, well, if these kids are not getting what they need, you know, that increases crime, you know, that, you know, and the quality of, you know, of your life, all the different things that impact the ability to safely walk down your street and feel like you can, you know, you can have your kids play outside and not be harmed. Like, you have to be concerned about our youth, because our youth are the future and our present. They're a present and the future.
Talk to me a little bit about, so what's that actually like? What are you hearing from members in South End community? You know, in the changes. You've been at it for 2 years. Mm-hmm. You have some stories about how folks are perceiving changes?
Man, right now we're producing a lot of truckers coming out the community. You know, there's CDL, we have Restoring Hope 100 Family have a CDL school. We can send you to get your CDL license.
Yeah, that's in partnership with the Little Rock Workforce Board.
What's our boy name over there at the workforce?
It's W.J. Monagle and his folks over there.
Right.
And then CDL Academies over by the jail.
By the jailhouse, mm-hmm. You know, so we're able to take a lot of young men, especially a lot of young men in our community that's been in prison. Matter of fact, I got one today. We're gonna see him, get him signed up. So they're able to come out of prison.
They're getting jobs?
Man, they're getting them off the top. And it's a big impact on their family. So now they, you know what I'm saying, how they say, less bullets, more jobs. Right, so everybody's around there working. As long as we get all them young men in there working, the young ladies in there working, man, hey, ain't no telling what can become of your community. And Paul, you allow us to go out in the community and do what we do. And it's not inexpensive. It takes a little bit of money to do what we do. Could you elaborate on that? How do you?
Yeah, I think it's a good spend. So we've got a grant that allows us to go out and you know, and y'all are offering help and connecting folks to opportunities. Just from what you were saying, that's a good spend. That's an investment in the community to prevent crime and to help folks that are coming back from incarceration to get hooked up with jobs, right, so that they can take care of their families and they're buying groceries and spending money and pursuing happiness. Here's kind of the thought process behind SmartJustice is that at every point we need to be strengthening families And so we need to get upstream of incarceration and foster care, because we're always going to need, as you've said, some people we just need to lock up for a time, maybe a long time, depending on what they're doing. Those are options, those are interventions that we have in our just carrying out of justice, but they're it's the most expensive option. It doesn't work most of the time in preventing, it's about 50% effective in preventing future crime currently. And foster care is very, very expensive. Taking a child into care, you might think that's an easy solution to what looks like a very complex set of issues, which they are. But it's very, very expensive.
My name is Courtnee Harlan. I used to be a foster care supervisor with Children and Family Services between 2018 and 2021. I am now the case manager for Restore Hope in conjunction with the Governor's 100 Families Initiative. I don't believe the community, not everybody understands how expensive foster care is. You're talking about just the initial removal, first 24 hours of one child could be equivalent to thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money. Besides, money issue and stuff and how expensive that is, if you think about how much money is invested into foster care, think about the things that it would cost to help stabilize a family. Say the reason why children are in care, it was because of environmental neglect, and the parent could have used just $1,000 to put down a deposit on a nice newer apartment. The money that could have been used to help fund that, instead is being used to help cover a caseworker on call doing the removal and paying for medical fees for the intake, initial physical, and then finding housing and stuff for that child, foster care placement and stuff. Really, it's just, trying to refocus what we could use certain funding for. And I can tell you just from experience, it would cost less to help parents out initially and keep those families together than it is to try to bring kids into foster care. If we can support these parents, if we can surround them and support them, whether it's helping them recover or get employment, whatever their barriers may be, we're putting, that productive citizen out in society, somebody who can contribute also towards the community. It takes a lot to rebuild these families when they've encountered a foster care case or, even any type of case with DCFS, just because that's another trauma that they're facing. And so I like to tell people, imagine you're meeting these people at their lowest of low. Maybe they're in a position where they haven't made good decisions, but they're struggling, they're trying to get help for them and their kids. They're already feeling at their lowest. They're feeling that they can't take care of their kids. Now, imagine their kids are removed, now you've taken them even further than what they probably already feel. They're at their lowest, now they're more into the ground at this point. I think having the community surround them and build them back up, yes, you'll get a productive citizen out of them, but I just always like to say, imagine if you were in their shoes, how would you want to be treated? We've got to start where they're at, which is really, really low, and try to rebuild them back up, and it takes some time. And so it's going to take more than just a caseworker with DCFS. It's going to take the community to surround them and all these providers.
We always have to take that long-term look, I think, because the things that are going on in our community right now are partially a result of what we were doing 10, 15 years ago. Right. If we take kind of the human aspect out, or any relationships that we may have with people that have struggled with substance abuse or incarceration, and just look fiscally at it, then what we're trying to show is that doing things this way, intervening, giving every possible option for someone to stop, to get help, to take the off-ramp into instead of descending on into multiple areas of crisis, creating more victims, getting involved deeper in the justice system. There needs to be off-ramps all the way.
Right.
And that's good money spent.
Right.
And as we have found from the data of law enforcement officers that are keeping the data and doing things in this way, from community members, from service providers, is we start to become more efficient. And we actually long-term start saving money like that.
Right.
Because incarceration's expensive. Foster care is very expensive per day.
So I take this one child, and he or she's in foster care for 5-10 years. Then you got this father incarcerated for 5-10 years. Then you got this mother it's more expensive than having a program that can send a child to college.
Yeah, no, college would be cheaper.
It would be cheaper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, trucking school is a lot cheaper than that.
Right.
Much.
So it's better to invest into these programs, prevention.
Yeah, that's the mindset I think that we're trying to make the argument for, is let's invest in families and find out what the needs are. And when things we need to find places far enough upstream that we can offer help to people. Right. And like y'all are doing, you're in the community offering help.
Right.
Before the wheels come off. That's wonderful money spent.
Right.
We don't have victims. We don't have the trauma impacted on the kids. Folks get what they need. And then we prevent a lot of this downstream expensive tragedy.
Right.
That has low possible, positive outcomes, or lower possible outcomes. And so that's really it. That's what I think that we, the people of Arkansas, need to work on for the next 5 to 10 years, is putting in at every level that we can find, when someone's in trouble, connection to resources, because we're already paying for the resources. They're in our communities.
Right.
Dana Baker, Director of 100 Families of White County, Arkansas.
So here in White County, we're really fortunate. We have a really strong partnership with DCFS, and the families can be referred here after the children have been removed, or they can be referred here before the children have been removed. If there's a protective services case, they'll often refer them, and they have a case plan for those cases as well. It can be cleaning up your home, getting transportation, getting mental health and substance abuse counseling, and leaving the kids in the home while they get those resources. There may have been a phone call made, a report made to DCFS, and they went out and checked on what was going on, realized the kids were safe, but yeah, that family does need some help. And so they refer them here as well, and we start connecting them to the same resources that we'd connect a family to if their kids had been removed. Our executive director, Paul, has an analogy that he talks about when you're building a house, you don't put the roof on first. You're going to build the foundation and make sure that it's strong and that it's sturdy as well. So the first thing we do is look at mental health and substance abuse and crisis situations. So if mental health and substance abuse are not addressed, then employment, education, housing, transportation, all of those things are not going to be able to take place. So we look at mental health and substance abuse first and make sure that they have adequate housing and food. And we want to find the best fit. So we have lots of different partners here in White County for mental health and substance abuse. The case managers are very well versed in what agencies offer what do they specialize in? Is it family therapy? Is it trauma therapy? Is there brain spotting that they need? Whatever that family we feel like they may need after our initial assessment, we connect them to the best fit. We'll look at what insurance they have. If they don't have insurance, we'll get them insurance. Where are services located? Are they located in their town if they don't have transportation? We want to make sure that the connection we're making is a viable connection and not a frustrating connection for that family. If we make that connection, we want to make sure that it's the best one and that it's going to work for that family. Once that's taken care of, then we can work on education, employment, transportation, legal issues, childcare. All of those things are kind of like the framework. And then the roof of that house, I feel like, would be long-term employment, a career, getting the kids back home, buying a car, having money in the bank, getting off public assistance.
Folks in crisis or that need help are trying to navigate in our communities. They're trying to navigate and find help. They're miserable and they don't want to be that way any longer,
Right.
but they just need someone like you that can communicate with them, that they will build some trust with, that you can start to go, you don't need the job program right now because you can't pass a drug test.
You need
Right.
substance abuse.
Let's get you in, let's get you cleaned up.
Right.
Now we're gonna, but that's not it, right? Clean's not the goal.
Right.
It's a step along the goal so that we can get you
Career
to
is
career.
the goal. Right. Career is the goal. Family is the goal. Family is the goal and career is the goal. So how do we come together as a collective whole and what can we do? What would be your advice to the higher up, to the legislators, the aldermen, the judges? What would be your advice to them?
The direct answer would be you have to realize that that you can't change a law and change, this
Right.
justice involvement, but you're probably going to need to change some laws.
Right.
Right? You're not going to be able just to offer more substance abuse or mental health and change this, but you're probably going to need both of those, more of those.
Right.
You're not going to be able just to put some more money in a jobs program or in community college, and change your child welfare outcome, but you're going to need school.
Right.
And so what we need to understand is it's the coordination of those things I was just talking about and the proper sequencing and helping people access those things. That's you have to solve for the coordination. And then you can start to look at where the gaps exist in a particular community. Right. And so that's kind of big meta story is you got to get your coordination down before you start looking at the program level. Now at the program level, you need to get your appropriate leaders, the right judges and the mayor and your parole probation and your area manager for DCFS and your substance abuse folks, and start talking about what's going on in the community. Right. You bring some data. Here's how many people returned from prison to our county last year. Here's recidivism rates. Here's how many people are in foster care. What's that look like against next year? And so you're looking at data which helps you keep it out of your particular opinion.
Karen Phillips, director of the 100 Families Initiative.
So one of the very exciting statistics that we like to share is the fact that whenever a family has these additional supports, which means that they have the support of multiple organizations in a community, and we are walking alongside the DCFS caseworkers to help the families accomplish the tasks that are at hand, then the reunification chances actually double. So in the state of Arkansas, only about 42 or 43% of families are reunited with their children after they are removed and placed into foster care. But whenever a 100 Families case manager is involved and helps alongside the community and providing all those additional kind of family supports and advocacy and hope building and all of those things that a case manager would provide in the initiative, it is 84%. So 84% of those children were able to go back home to their parents and do it safely. And that is another thing, is that we continue to work alongside those families after the DCFS case is closed. So we continue to make sure that things are going well with their family, that they're working towards longer term goals. So they may want to, even after they move to stability in their employment and housing and things like that, they might want to work towards a career and making more money so that they can support their family in a more thriving and robust way. And so we continue to work with those families as long as they're willing to keep working towards their goals.
Again, to kind of summarize, is at a state leadership level, legislator level, state director in an agency, you've got to realize that that you can't do it alone.
Right.
But you're needed. You can, and definitely if you've got that kind of power, you could prevent anything good from happening. And so you're going to have to put these coalitions together and realizing that collective impact would be the way to go. At a community level, start the vision meetings and trying to push towards understanding the problem before you start pitching solutions.
Right.
You got to really start understanding what's happening to
going
us.
on, right. And also, smart politician. You can't stop what's going on in the community. That community has to be able to stop what's going on in that community. That politician is supposed to assist that community on what they need. So it's not on the politician to stop it, it's on that community to stop it. Just assist that community with the resources and the things that they need. A lot of these problems will be solved.
You know, I think you're bringing up something, Rock, that's really important. It's, you know, I'm not a part of your community.
Right.
I know folks in your community and love folks in your community.
Right.
And I don't live there. And so me trying to, you know, change things from the outside, you know, is a much less effective way. I'm going, we got a trucking school. I don't know how to offer trucking school to.
Right.
But you do. You know the players.
Right.
And if you don't know them, you know people that know them. And
right.
so, you know, how do you offer that help in that particular way? How do you motivate someone to get the help that they need and stop doing what they're doing because believing that there's a better future out there for themselves?
Right. And that's the way that we've been attacking it for the last 2 years, and it's working. We're able to take those families straight to 100 families in restoring hope. And they're able to provide the services that people from our community need. And that's a blessing that I'm able to go into my community and bring them the help and the resources that they need. And so we work from street team to counseling to working with, so it works. It's the fact that it works.
Yeah. Firstly, I'd say y'all are doing an incredible job. And, you know, once we met a couple years ago and y'all were saying, listen, we want to stop the violence. We know the community well. We know what needs to happen. We just need resource. That started a really good partnership. And let me tell you what the outcomes are. So we run this 100 Families program. There's 6 communities running it. We track a lot of data, but one of the data points is where do clients come from? Right. So what's the source? Because we create these pipelines. And in Little Rock is the only place where a significant number of the clients are actually just coming because they're not compelled. They don't have a case.
Right.
Right? They're just coming from the street because you're out there working the community in the different ways. You're at the football league at the park.
Right.
You know, talking with people and going, oh, I didn't know that was going on. Hey, I got you. You know, I know where the help is for that thing. And so you're getting folks connected, which is so important because that's before it gets the problem gets worse.
Right.
You're helping people at the point of pain rather than letting them descend fully into the dark hole that positive outcomes start to get to probably not going to be positive.
Right. So Paul, at the beginning of the SmartJustice, man, we started out about family.
Injustice issues and child welfare issues, that the family is the thing that is most sacred in our discussions, and that any action that we can do that is safe and appropriate, we should do to keep that family together, to strengthen that family before bad happens or additional bad happens. Because then what we're going to get is we're going to get less crime. We're going to get less spend on incarceration and foster care. We're going to get more jobs and more taxes and more people taking ownership in their community and having the capacity to do the kinds of pro-social things like coach a Little League team.
Right.
And if you're coaching a Little League team, then the kids got someplace to go while mom's at work. Mm-hmm. Right? They're playing baseball or football or whatever, and they're doing things that build into them and provide them with the opportunity to grow up and seek opportunities and to build significant relationships, maintain those things.
Right. So SmartJustice is a happy, healthy family, and a happy, healthy family creates a happy, healthy community.
That's it. So I really want to hear what you think around kind of this season, talking about family as it relates to child welfare and incarceration and the importance of it.
Man, it's everything. Because I wouldn't be who I am or where I'm at without my mother and my father. Rest in peace. But my mother and my grandma, man, they're everything. So that's my stability. Whenever I feel like I'm getting back into that Charlie Rock mode, I can go, hey, go in, let me talk to you. Run in, let me holler at you. I can go talk to my mom and my dad. I can talk to my children. I can go get my daughter or get my grandson. I'm able to be here with them. I'm able to take, so a family, it's your rock, it's your core. So when you're able to have that rock and that core, you're able to think straight, you know, and that's what we want, a community full of children that have parents to guide their way, to help them with this step, because everybody's gonna make a mistake growing up. And when you have those parents and those grandparents and that uncle you can go to, your favorite uncle or your favorite aunt, you know, it makes a lot of difference. So we want a lot of that going on in our communities where children have options.
Yeah. You know, I was kind of thinking, Rock, about there's just been this study for many, many decades now that Harvard's done on what makes you happy.
Right.
Of the people that they're studying, they can tell best what their physical health is going to be like at 80 by looking at what the strength of their relationships with their family and their friends at 50.
I can see that. I can really see
so
that.
Not their checkbook,
right.
Not that that's not important,
right?
But they were looking at strength of relationship. If that person is cynical and alone at 50, they're not going to be as physically healthy at 80,
right?
As someone that has their kids and their grandkids and friends and
right. Because family just produces happiness, even in the bad, in the worst time. Because, you know, you're going to have your ups and downs, your smiles and frowns. You got to have it, like right now, man, I still got my granny. So guess what? I still get Sunday dinners. You know what I'm saying? You know how many people would love to have their granny back, you know what I'm saying? So that brings me joy, just knowing I can go over on Sunday and I can just kick back with my grandma. You know what I'm saying? Eat some of that good fried chicken and collard greens and cornbread. That's a beautiful thing, that's family. You know, when you have that, it brings about a certain balance. You know, so the SmartJustice way is to make sure that child or that mother or that father, that they have the relationships we were talking about, and healthy relationships. You know, so we try to get everybody to that healthy place.
Thank you for joining us for Season 1 of SmartJustice. We will return with Season 2 in early 2023, exploring the innovative ways judges and courts are working to improve Arkansas communities. Thank you again, and may your family be blessed.
Thanks to our guests, Danny Baker, Shanice Johnson, Courtnee Harlan, Dana Baker, and Karen Phillips. And thanks to Churches for Life for sponsoring. Musical credits include H2O by Lee of the Stone, Wander by ILO, Believe in Me by Moments, At the Heart of It by Tyam, and Let the Rivers Flow by Cast of Characters. Music is licensed through soundstripe.com. SmartJustice is a work of Restore Hope. Please consider helping us produce more work like this by becoming a sponsor at www.smartjustice.org. Thank you again.